3 ways to change the world. I've been working on a theory of 3 ways to change the world, and I divide them into these 3 categories. The 3 areas are law, technology, and culture. And what those 3 represent is law is what is permitted. It represents the rules, what is allowed. There are a lot of things that are possible and even desired that are not allowed. Then you have the technological, which represents what is possible. When new technologies come on the scene, they change what is possible. They change the price at which you can make something. They change what types of things are possible to do. And it frees up time. It releases all kinds of creative potential in the possible direction. That can be good and bad and ugly. It can be all of the 3. And the third category is cultural. And culture is a little bit harder to define. It is a mixture of what is normal and what is desired. Now, I am very interested in homesteading and home production and domestic production. And so if I want to look at changing the world to make it a little bit more self-reliant and to have people making a little bit more of their own food and living a little bit closer to home, how could I change that? Well, I can change one of these 3 factors. I can change what is permitted. You are all banned from not homesteading, which is a terrible idea. I am not a out-and-out libertarian as far as anarcho-capitalist beliefs or anarcho-communist beliefs. I do believe in a place for rules, and I think the rules we have are actually, for the most part, pretty good. Granted, of course, there are ones that need to change, but for the most part, we have a operating system that works. There are a few that I would like to change. There's front yard gardening is banned in a lot of cities, and that hurts homesteading. And there's always Wickard v. Filburn, which is a terrible case, which I have left a video about in the past. But I'm mostly going to ignore that category. I'm going to try to operate within the law as written, which leaves me 2 categories to work with. I can change what is possible using technology. Now, there are people working on this. FarmBot is an example. FarmBot is an open source project put together by some very, very clever engineers to have a robot garden for you. It is a CNC machine that operates over a 4x8 garden bed and then sends updates to you after your plants are done. It has an interactive map that helps you plant your plantings, and then it has a tool head that will automatically eliminate weeds and water the plants according to the weather and the age of the plants. When they're younger, they get less. When they're older, they get more, and it just works out. So that's a really cool thing, a machine that plants seeds for you and sends you an update to your phone when the thing is done. That is technology changing what is possible, changing the energy level required to garden. I don't think it's completely necessary in my case. I actually enjoy gardening as a cathartic release, so that's not exactly how I want to change the world. A lot of the technologies I'm interested in have actually already been invented by clever people in movements of the past. Say in the 1950s in India, the Ambar Charkha came on the scene. If you go back to the 1870s, a lot of these things have already been invented, like piezoelectric solar and all of these tools. And around the turn of the century, they had hand knitting machines. But the weird thing is that a lot of those technologies, even though they are possible, fell out of favor because they never had a cultural impact. And so if, hypothetically, I wanted to work on homesteading, this model works with any other movement that you want to pursue. I think the key element is culture. Now, an interesting idea that I take from a book of scripture is this idea found in the Book of Mormon, that there's a man named Alma, and Alma is the chief judge, which is kind of like the chief executive officer in the land. Think of him as like the president of the country. And he notices some societal trends that are disturbing, and he wants to make a real difference in the world. And so does he do it from the top office in the land? No. He actually quits being chief judge and becomes an itinerant preacher. Meaning, rather than working on the legal or the technological side, he begins working squarely on the cultural, and that at the individual level or the small group level, working with people in their homes. And that would be an interesting anecdote if it happened once in that book of scripture, but it actually happens again. A few hundred years later in the history of the Book of Mormon, they have another, again, chief judge, this time named Nephi, and he notices trends in his society that disturb him, and so he steps down and becomes an itinerant preacher. And, preacher maybe has a negative connotation as somebody who kind of wags the finger at you and tells you what you should be doing, but think of them as traveling inspirers whose goal is to help people make positive changes in their lives, to stop doing the bad things and start doing the good things, and to improve and live better, live after the manner of happiness. And so culturally, I think homestead vloggers have a lot to offer in terms of homesteading as a specific movement. That's just an example of one that I am interested in as a way to change the world and make it better, is making homesteading or home growing of your own food, or cooking your own food, or homeschooling your children, things that seem normal and desirable. And they're doing it entirely by example. They're saying, hey, I'm doing it and it's nice. There are lots of examples of this. Dirt Patch Heaven up in Idaho. You've got Justin Rhodes. I can't remember if he's in Tennessee or Kentucky. And Joel Salatin and lots of others who are moving the culture a little bit, just with example, changing what is normal and desired. So anyway, 3 ways to change the world. You have the legal, which is what is permitted. You have technology / the technological, same thing, just different forms of the word, which is what is possible. And then you have culture, which is a mixture of what is desired and what is considered normal. And if you want to change the world, your efforts are probably going to go into one of those 3. And entrepreneurship is a lot about playing with the relationships between these 3. You find something that is permitted or possibly permitted, that would be good, and then you find the technology that makes it possible, and then you move the culture using advertising to make it happen. Marketing, basically convincing people that this is a thing, letting them know that it's a thing, and then explaining why it's desirable. If you want to change the world, please change it for the better. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe below. We look forward to seeing you next time.